Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Tortcast. I really have to actually tune down the intro bit because it's quite dramatic, and so you always have to answer really enthusiastically with a greeting. But anyway, welcome. This is episode 4. Been going for almost a month now, and we're almost at 50 listeners. So thank you very much for everybody who's been continuing to support and to listen. Give it a share and just let other people know. Really appreciate it. But either way, I'm going to be continuing to do this every Sunday. Recording every Sunday and have the episode out every Monday. And we've got a lot of guests still to get through. So, yeah. Today, we finally had Matt return to the show. For those who are listening to episode 2, I was supposed to have Matt on the show then, which I did. But I then lost the audio. So this is the second time he's come, but it'll be the first official episode because I've made some more improvements to the audio, and I mean it makes editing easier as well. So a lot of progress to be made each week, and hopefully that, as you see, that will be reflected in the nature and the performance of the episodes. This episode is a little bit long for what I would normally aim for, but we did have quite a lot to speak about, and there's a tidbit at the end for next week. And, well, yeah, I'll just give it a little introduction about Matt. He'll introduce himself, of course, but he might not cover everything. But, yeah, so Matt, we studied together at university, at Cambridge. He's a very smart guy. He's a physicist. He writes, and he's transgender, so he's got a lot to say in that regard as well, which we will probably discuss. So, yeah, he's just a really interesting character and he's a good friend, so very happy to have him on the show. As we head into June, honestly, I feel bad just saying that, like, whereas the first 5 months of the year gone, 2020 has been a bit of a whirlwind. It feels like everything and nothing has happened at the same time, which is quite a peculiar feeling. But, yeah, as we head into June, we're going to be having more episodes coming out and maybe eventually even 2 guests at the same time because I'd like to be doing more active kind of podcasts. But anyway, enough with the intro. This episode's long enough as it is. So I hope you enjoy it. This is the Tortcast. Welcome. Hello and welcome. Thanks for actually getting back onto the show, Matt. So I think I've explained to listeners before, but yeah, you managed to come on for episode 2, but we had an audio leak. But thankfully you're here now, so welcome for the second time, but the first time officially. How have you been?
Yeah, well, excellent. Still holding up. Teetering on the brink of mental breakdown, but I'm not there yet, so...
Do you reckon you can last a few more weeks before the restrictions are lifted?
Well, I'm gonna have to, right? Like, I hope they're lifted in a few more weeks. Rather, no, I follow the science completely, and however long they need to hold it for, I will comply with. But yeah, I'll be alright, I think. But I think this week everyone's been starting to lose it a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that is everyone's mood right now.
We'll connect.
I mean, it's a lot nicer here, not to brag, but things aren't that different, whereas back home I'm seeing pictures of like people queuing up for supermarkets and getting angry at each other. I mean, down at Southend, people have been going to the beach and like completely ignoring the distances and leaving litter behind as well, and it's like,
no,
oh boy.
Yeah,
but can't really fault people by this point because it's hard for anybody to stay locked up. Especially like if you do live in a small place or with your parents, as you're doing right now, which, yeah, that would drive me insane.
I mean, it's on me because I moved. No, it's been good to see them for an extended period of time, but I'm down now. I was worried I'd already started you on like a rant of of Finland patriotism, and like going on about how great Finland is, which is too early in the show for that.
We could get to that. I was sitting outside earlier and there was a British woman talking about how great Finland is, and I was just sitting in the corner, and then I just chimed in with a, yeah, she's right. You Finns, you have it pretty good here. And the Finns started complaining. They were saying, oh, but we don't really have like a kind of local community as such as you get in the UK. And it's like, well, yeah, that's true, but people don't like it in the
Yeah,
UK.
exactly.
So you're not missing out on anything.
Yeah, we all wish the local community would like dissipate so we wouldn't have to talk to these morons or spend any time saying hi to our neighbors and things. They're annoying.
Exactly. I spoke about with Leader in episode 2, actually, just saying how Finns and Brits are quite similar in a way. So, for example, one common thing that I don't think I would have done as much a few months back, but for example, getting the lift out, down out of my apartment. If I see somebody heading towards the lift or if I hear somebody walking past my door, I'll just kind of stay in my room until they've gone down, and then I'll go and get the lift separately by myself. Uh, which, to be honest, I don't know. I think some Brits would also do that as well. Introverted because you can.
Yeah, yeah, no, true. I mean, normally I would speak for the introverts and like defend avoiding people at all costs, but after this long in lockdown, I've come around on people. I'd like to see some at some point in my life.
Suddenly, everybody's an extrovert.
No.
Everybody wants to get together.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. So tell us a bit more about yourself because I don't do the introducing anymore. Originally, I was going to do kind of introductions in the pre-recorded bit that I do at the beginning of the episode, but hey, I prefer a lot more if the guests yourself introduce yourself. So, what you got to tell us, Matt?
So I'm Matt. We were at university together, doing the best course, the course from hell, natural sciences, and since then I have been. Well, you ran away to Moscow despite me telling you it was a shithole.
It was amazing. I love it.
And because I used to live there and had it on like personal evidence that it is in fact a shithole, no matter how many like bows and like flowers they scatter around the streets. And then I've been doing consultancy, totally non-evil job, and writing a lot and playing a lot of D&D because I'm cool.
D&D is very cool. I wish I could play D&D. Yeah, I mean, last time we spoke, we did speak a little about your writing. I would like to go more into that as well. But just going back to what you said about natural sciences. So for those of you who don't know, natural sciences is pretty much, it's the main science degree at Cambridge. I mean, you have engineering and computer science, but natural sciences encompasses all of physics, chemistry, biology, and so on. And it's actually, for me, been really annoying because when you go abroad and you say you studied natural sciences to foreigners who aren't familiar with the term, basically every job interview I end up having to explain how the degree works, what the degree means, and so saying you went to Cambridge isn't enough. They say, oh, what do you study? You say natural sciences, and they're like, and so then I say, oh, I did material science, and then they're still like, so yeah, so that's a bit of a pain. But how did you find life at Cambridge then?
Well, I think it had. I don't know. I've been thinking on this. I think it had ups and downs. In
For sure.
how up the ups were and how down the downs were, like remains to be debated. I after you I had a great year after you'd left. Because you weren't there.
Wow.
No, because I
Wow.
gave
Okay.
up on the
I'm
work in
editing
my
that out.
master's year, and I had quite a good time the first time, and just like threw the towel in a little bit on getting any work. So that was fun. There are definitely, I don't know, there are good aspects of it, but the course itself can be kind of nightmare.
Yeah, I generally think the wider appreciation of the degree it gets better as you get further in, but yeah, the ups are super up and the downs are super downs. Cambridge is intense in all regards, to be honest, which is, I think, fundamentally what makes it more tricky because the turn times are shorter and the workload is higher. So yeah, but that's in the past now. Are you happier now that you're working, or would you rather go back to your final year and do that all again?
I have no idea. I mean, I think you're right that it's like one of the really characteristic things about it is the short terms. Is when you're there, it's always like there's so much you constantly should or could be doing that you're almost like paralyzed, standing there as a panic, like watching the days flash in front of your eyes. Uh, and then you leave, and then like, you immediately forget that that's what it's like. I don't know. Working is different. Having a job is different it's a lot less free time, but I think you just adjust to having less free time. It's like when you're in sixth form or like school or whatever, and school ends at 4, 3 even, and you get off and have nothing to do for the rest of the day. Like I was just looking back and going like, what did I do with that time? Like I don't remember doing anything.
Yeah, and that's right, actually. I remember having so much free time at school in sixth form, and it never actually dwelled on me that how much free time I had, because I was always able to fill it with something to do. Whereas now, I mean, yes, your free time is free time, unlike at university, for example, where your free time just makes you feel guilt. Your free time now, I mean, this is why I'm doing the podcast. Something to fill that free time with, to try to, I mean, it gives you, I suppose in a way, it kind of inspires you to branch out and look to do more things, which I'm sure writing has helped you a lot with. I mean, are you doing a lot now during the lockdown?
Yeah. In fact, I was writing before I'm before we found and I'll probably start writing again afterwards. I'm in the middle of it. Yeah, it's going well. Lockdown, I think, is quite good for it because there's not a lot else to be doing, even if I had the inclination to.
Yeah, but so I mean, I'm interested as to like how you go about choosing what to write. Do you have like a kind of pre-process like plot and characters that you wish to develop, or are you constantly taking inspiration from other people you speak to and do, or how have you gone about? Because you're writing your second book now, aren't you? Or have you finished your second?
Yeah, this is my second
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I guess I usually start with like a topic I want to like a setting and a topic, which is not I think how most people who write do it. But I usually have a place I want to set it, and the place is usually fictional because I hate reality, and I hate researching real places.
That's why I play video
Yeah,
games.
exactly. Um, and then I also have like a thing I want to write. So broadly, I have a theme like I want to write about something really pretentious, and then you kind of narrow it down to like a more specific implementation of it. Like I want to write about how people relate to the places they come from, or I want to write about the nature of scientific truth, which is what this one is very broadly about. I'm writing at the moment. Like that was my theme idea, and then characters will come sort of later, and then I always do plot last because I'm terrible at plot, and it's always plot is incredibly important. I'm just bad at it, and means that I have to edit it like 7 times to get it to all gel together.
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately, as long as you continue to kind of develop the world you're interested in, then a plot that you like and support would eventually come about, I guess, in a way. Because I can't imagine there's much worse than writing a plot and then realizing you hate it. At least with character development and so on, you can, I suppose, make tweaks and change some nuances. But with plot, once you've made the plot line of your story, it's kind of hard to like mend, I suppose.
Yeah. I think plot. You're right, and I also think plot is a thing that you're most likely to feel like it's really stupid while you're writing it. Like prose and character, when you're usually writing it, it usually feels quite like good. When like you're like, oh, I'm a genius. You're probably not a genius. Like you'll read it back later and be, oh, I wasn't actually a genius. Plot, like when you're writing it, it feels stupid. You're like, this plot point is stupid, and this plot
Yeah.
point is stupid, and in actual fact, most plot points in fiction are kind of stupid.
But that's because you're seeing its bare bones, aren't you?
Yeah,
Like with character development, it's cool to just say, this guy's an introvert. This guy's also an introvert, but he wears an eye patch.
yeah,
This things like that. Whereas a plot, when you just have it in your mind, quite literally, something like plot twist, it's her brother. It's like you kind of want to kick yourself.
we were the real bad guys all
Yeah.
along. You're like, that's stupid, but actually, that's quite a good plot twist if like you execute it well.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, saying this, I feel it would be quite interesting to look at some famous novels and just kind of read it out as the bare bones plotline.
Oh man,
Ignore
yeah,
all the
really.
subtext and the theme and whatever. Just kind of straight up say, "Yep," and he was the bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do this with Shakespeare. Like, this is the most hilarious thing. Like, what you wrote, Shakespeare, best writer of all time, blah, 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 blah. His plots are dumb as fuck if you read them out like that. Like, they are so stupid. It's like, and then you mistake a person who's just put on a hood for a completely different person. Then you're very easily tricked into thinking your wife is cheating on you for no evidence. And then you, like, then melodrama. And then, something else really dumb happens. And then Hamlet makes a treaty with pirates off stage and it's never seen, and he comes back on and is like, oh, I made friends with the pirates, and just they're like, what? Like, it's all really quite dumb, but it doesn't matter because the character development is good.
I just want to say for the listeners, spoiler alert for if you haven't read Shakespeare yet, so just be careful, that might get you.
Really integral part of it, but yeah, and Shakespeare is in fact good. I'll take.
I mean, I'm sure many people who went through school would disagree, but I do think you're right. It's one of those things that, honestly, almost every student at school who studies Shakespeare, or pretty much any novel, really, any play or whatever at school, just hates it. But then 10 years later, you think, oh, I feel enlightened a little bit more just because of that one book we read. But I mean, I suppose it does matter what your interests are and what you end up going into. But I for one, am glad that I was forced to read Arthur Miller's The Crucible at 15. I just feel it gives you some insight because it's those kind of things that most people wouldn't really choose to do in their own time. Especially in this day and age where every kid just wants to play Fortnite. Unless they find a way to incorporate Shakespeare into Fortnite, then I don't know.
The greatest crossover episode of all time.
I'm calling that now, by the way. If anybody, if you put Shakespeare in Fortnite, I want the money.
Contact Lewis Jarrett. See, you think the kids like Fortnite, but they don't necessarily. I was trying to relate to a child recently. It was like a little 12-year-old. It's my uncle's girlfriend's kid, and I was like trying to relate to him, and I was like, I'm down with the kids. I know what the kids like Fortnite. They play Fortnite, they do Fortnite dancing, right? That's what they like. And so I was like, I said to this little 12-year-old, like, how about that Fortnite? He just looked at me and was like, Fortnite's not cool anymore. What? Apparently Minecraft is cool again. What?
I don't think Minecraft has ever fallen out of being cool. Personally, I never really played it because I'm what I call a small brain. In the sense that I don't like playing games that just give me endless possibilities. I want a game that kind of gives me a story, gives me places to go, and says, go do this and be happy with your life. Whereas when they kind of give me a sandbox game like Minecraft, they sit down and they say, you can build anything you like. I'll build like a tiny house with a window and be like, yeah, I'm done now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy. I'm content with my life. It's not for people who are like easily contented by life. It's not for happy people. It's for people with like urge in their soul to build the path and then out of video blocks or whatever. No, I'm totally with you. I kind of sit down with those games that's like, now you need to make your own story, and I'm like, I don't want to. That's your job. Like, tell me a story. That's why I bought the game.
Yeah. I mean. And then you get people in Minecraft who do things like make an in-game fully functional calculator, or they'll recreate all of Hogwarts to scale or something like that. And I'm just like, don't you have better things to do with your time? I mean, it's amazing, and I'm never gonna shit talk content creators. If you're making these sorts of things, it's amazing. But I, for one, it's not for me. I don't think I could sit down, put in that time to create some sort of masterpiece and then just move on.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd make that masterpiece and then I'd just feel empty because, I'd have to make a second one to feel valid again.
Yeah. This is modern day Renaissance artists.
I mean, seriously, if you gave Da Vinci Minecraft, who knows what that man would have done?
Yeah. Well, yeah. A lot of other random inventions that didn't work at all. No, I'm sorry, I know nothing about Da Vinci. I just have like images in my mind of this like massive wooden tank called the wingsuit that didn't work and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, Da Vinci's one of those guys who everybody either says is a genius or just crazy or both. Or I mean, I don't know much about him. myself to actually comment, but that seems to be the general. But yeah, so we spoke last time as well about you living in Germany a bit when you were younger. This is something I just kind of want to ask a bit more about. What age were you when you were there?
God, you asked me a question on time. What age am I now?
I forget.
I think I was maybe 8 to 11, 8 to 10, 10 to 10.
Oh,
It
okay.
was
So,
3 to
so
4
it was
years.
quite quite a brief period. To be honest, I don't remember much from when I was 8, other than I had a flaming baseball cap that I wore everywhere.
Wow, you
And
used to be cool
then,
then.
and I think I lost it 3 times, and each time I would buy the exact same one again. And then when I lost it the 4th time, I don't think I've worn a baseball cap since. I always wore baseball caps everywhere, and now I never do. So it's kind of a sad turnaround, you know.
Yeah, I know. That's anti-character development. That's downwards character development.
You see that kid over there who used to wear a baseball cap. I'm pretty sure one of them I've like dropped in the toilet. That's the only memory I have of that baseball cap. But yeah, so no, while you were in Germany, I just wanted to ask, do you have any fond memories of it at all? Did you, or more specific with the fact that you grew up abroad in a few countries, do you feel you've developed any habits from that as you grew up?
It's more that I don't know. The thing that I really feel from growing up abroad, Germany specifically, I'm not sure. Definitely Germany feels very familiar. When I go back, I'm like, oh, I know this place. It feels quite not like home, but it's kind of quite to my heart. Um, I don't know. The biggest thing that I take away from international childhood is not knowing any of the British TV shows that everyone watches when they're a kid and like feeling very out of it when
Ah.
suddenly everyone gets into a conversation about these shows. Actually, there's quite a lot of just cultural touchstones that I missed out on. And that people that you kind of just sometimes feel like someone has said something in like a different language or something, or you've missed a beat and you're not quite sure where the conversation went and what the hell people are talking about.
So did you? I'm just asking this now because Lita and I were speaking the other day, and I noticed something that I found very strange, and I've noticed it a couple of times with things. When you were younger, did you ever do the playground game? I suppose of if you see a yellow car, you say yellow car and punch someone.
No.
No, okay, so you missed out on that living abroad. But that's something that me and my friends did at school, and I've turns out pretty much every other person I've known in the UK did that when they were a kid, and I did it to Lita the other day. By the way, not full on punch, just for the record, getting that out there. Just a light punch,
This hair
just a
also.
light. Okay, not even a punch. I shouldn't use the word punch. Okay, this hole's getting deep. Anyway, yeah, and she laughed and she did it back, and she said she knew of it. And I found that really weird that myself in southern UK as a kid wasn't using the internet, wasn't watching TV. Even if I did, we had different TV programs, and we both knew the same joke. The same thing with I think you know this one. The idea if you do your hand in a OK sign, and if somebody looks at it, you get to punch them. Do you know that? Not know that either.
Why do all these jokes revolve around punishing people? No, I don't. I don't know any of
Because in a playground, that's kind of the only thing that you want to do. Okay. Well, here we go. This is point in case. You growing up abroad, you've missed out on these things. But I've noticed that a lot of people in the US and in Finland as well, they also know that joke. And I'm just wondering what the hell that connection is. But I suppose if you were growing up in international British schools, you may have gotten a very different vibe. Were there any kind of games or well-known things in the schools you went to?
I mean, I mostly like honestly Germany. I don't have that many memories. Moscow, I have a lot of memories. We played a lot of weird games, and none of them like that. Mostly because winter is so long, and like as soon as the snow set in, we used to like build these very elaborate like camps, and then like pelt each other with ice hard snowballs that were probably quite dangerous if they actually hit.
That sounds worse than punching.
Yeah, it does sound worse than punching in retrospect. So probably that was more violent. That was we had a sort of whole fantasy like nation set up called Chicken Land. It was very complicated. We were slightly strange. Point the prime minister of the school Um, you can tell what's on my mind at the moment. The principal of the school banned our like nation state snowball pelting games, and there was like a riot. Um,
Wow. Kids can't have their own states. What kind of society do we live in?
we declare independence. This is the sovereign nation of Chicken Land. We had our own currency. It was called the Chola.
Is this the prelude to Bitcoin?
Yeah.
The Chola.
Yeah. Invest
Did
now.
Chola have a direct translation, or was it literally just a noun?
It was literally just a noun. We all spoke English.
Did you ever see the games where like you have like a paper pyramid and you go like left, right? Like, you say say a number and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you like reveal a secret at the end. Did you ever?
What? No.
Ah, man. I'm going to have to sit you down and show you these. And sorry to any listeners who don't know any of these games either, but I'm sure some of you will relate because it's certainly a big thing in the UK. And I know that there are some playground games here in Finland and so on. But, okay. Well, anyway, yeah, it was just this little paper pyramid and it would have like flaps that would say like a secret underneath, like you will die at the age of 24, which honestly, not too bad of a blessing. Or they would have something like you will win the lottery next week. Just some stupid kind of predictions.
Those.
And
Yes,
yeah,
actually,
you
I
just
do
say some
know
numbers.
those.
There we go.
Yeah. The 1, 2, 3, 4. We had colours: red, blue, yellow.
With colours, yeah. Sometimes they have colours. People made their own. But who came up with that? I don't know. Maybe if we just Googled it, we'd find that out. But I just, in a time where people weren't using the internet or TV, I do find it crazy that sort of thing just spread around the world.
Yeah, we definitely had those. I do actually know what you're talking about. Yeah,
It's the
we used to
original
make
memes.
them. And write like, you will be stabbed with knives, you will become a pop star or something. Yeah. But yeah, who did come up with that? That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, anybody listening as well, if you think of some, just leave a comment or whatever. But yeah, there are lots more that you'd probably recall. I also asked Lita if she does the Mini Cooper one, and then I realised I don't really have Mini Coopers in Finland, so that doesn't apply. It's the same thing as yellow car. You just, if you see a Mini Cooper, you punch someone, and so if you see a yellow Mini Cooper, that's like the jackpot.
Punch them twice.
Yes. It was the ultimate vindication, the ultimate reward for a kid in a playground. Because you could only do it if you called it first, obviously. So like if whichever kid called it first, they became the king of the playground because they could dish out 2 punches whenever they wanted without warning. They didn't have to do it immediately.
Right. So you save them up and then like unleash them at a time of.
Yeah, when they least expect it, and then you just bam 1, 2. You got kids unconscious on the floor, and it's a bloodbath. And I have fond memories of childhood.
Of course, if you did enough strength training, you would only need 1 punch.
That's a good point. Well, you see, I don't like to put in the effort to. Anyway. So, I had something happen to me yesterday morning. This is probably going to be more of a monologue, but I'll see if you have anything to say as well. Do you consider yourself lucky in any sense? I don't mean lucky as in like, oh, I'm privileged, I have a nice family and a house over, I just mean like lucky in the sense of like, I don't know, finding a coin on the floor, or I don't know, something random happens and in a game and you get rewarded or whatever. Like, do you consider yourself lucky at all, or do you consider yourself generally unlucky?
I always think that I'm lucky before I make the decision to try and make a shot in XCOM with 65% probability, and unlucky after that shot inevitably misses 100% of the time.
There's your first mistake. But not in any other sense.
Not really, no.
I generally consider myself unlucky, but Lita has come to say that instead of unlucky, I should just say clumsy, which I think she has a point there, because basically yesterday morning, honestly, if I could record this and upload it as a comedy sketch, I would, but it was the worst morning of my life. I had opened the cupboard. I wanted to just make a bowl of cereal, right? I'd opened the cupboard. And that's mistake number 1. As I'd opened the cupboard, I managed to knock over a bag of sugar onto the floor, right? So that's already like one of the worst things you can spill onto a floor because it's sugar and it just goes everywhere. I managed to half catch the bag, And as I catch the bag, my elbow then knocks a bag of flour onto the floor. So we have now a bag of sugar and a bag of flour spilled onto the floor. And by that point, I've already given up on life and decided that it's the worst day and things can only go up. And I decided not to clean it because I was going to vacuum later anyway, so I just kind of left that pile of hell on the floor. And I come over to my desk because I want to try and work and eat at the same time, which is my third mistake. I have my bowl of cereal on my computer desk next to my mouse and keyboard, and I then managed to knock the bowl of cereal onto the floor. So, yeah, by that point, I would say that's unlucky. Leader would say clumsy. I'm not up for debate here. I'm going to say unlucky. But, yeah, I mean, have you had any seriously clumsy streaks? Because, I mean, one thing I have noticed is that anybody who studies science is by definition clumsy, which is kind of definitely what you shouldn't be.
Yeah, I am exceptionally clumsy at points in my life. When I first moved into the house I'm living in at the moment with my housemates after leaving university, I think I managed to break about like 5 plates and bowls in like the first 2 to 3 months of living there. And since then, like every time I'm in the kitchen on my own, I can just feel all that stares like go around to face me, like, "You're right in there, Matt." And then I do occasionally like drop things anyway that don't break, and you just hear this intake of breath from the living room. Yeah, I'm incredibly clumsy, and I'm sorry, Liz, I would call that clumsy, not unlucky. I can own it.
Embracing the chaos. I have to admit, I was always quite scared for your sake when we were in Cambridge, because, well, when it came to avoiding bicycles and oncoming traffic, I remember a few times we would be walking about and you'd about to step in front of a bike or something. But to be fair, I think we both know somebody who's even more reckless in that case. She who shall not be named.
She who shall not be named.
If you're listening, you know who we're talking about. Would cycle into the middle of the road.
Yeah. Of course, I have a bike now, so I am the cyclist, like, pelting into other people.
You're cycling now. The man who walked for his entire degree is now cycling.
Yeah, I am. It's good for commuting. I don't know. I got on one at some point, and then I was like, "Oh, this is pretty fast. Faster than walking," and I never looked back.
Wow, Wills go fast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wills go fast. But I find the change of perspective really entertaining, because the second I'm off the bike, I am just like bloody cyclists running me over, not looking where they're going. And the second I get on the bike, I'm like sodding pedestrians, not like crossing the cycle lanes, not paying attention. The switch is like immediate.
Yeah, for those just explanation, Cambridge is an incredible cycling intense city because there's students just going literally everywhere, and it's a city, but it's actually really, really small. A lot of traffic and a lot of cyclists. And as a physicist, Matt and myself actually as a material scientist, we pretty much had to travel 7 miles a day to get to the department from our college. And yeah, Matt walked.
To the bus. Yeah.
Most of the time, yeah. Okay, yeah. But, most of the time you did walk. I mean, I cycled every day, so that was 9 a.m., 7 mile cycle every morning, which, to be honest, I wish I could do again, actually. But I don't miss that much. It was quite nice.
This is what I miss most about not going into the office. It's not like my colleagues or being in the office or anything. It's like cycle ride to the office, which I think is really good for you.
Yeah, if you share this with any colleagues, yeah, I don't care about you guys. I just like cycling. But no,
they're all great. All great.
It is true though. The journey to work is quite therapeutic and cathartic in a sense. Leader and I were looking at moving apartment, and we found one that's like literally opposite her workplace. You can see her workplace from the window, and on the one hand, we were like, wow, that would be amazing. It would take you 30 seconds to get to work. But on the other hand, can you imagine looking out your window and just seeing your workplace every day? You know, and only having 30 seconds to get there, you can't really, because the journey to work does kind of refresh your mind in a sense in the morning. and it can be relaxing on the way home. But yeah, going back to cyclists, I've noticed. I mean, a lot of people I think do have this idea that Scandinavian and Nordic countries are really good when it comes to cycling, and I think generally Denmark and probably Sweden are pretty good for this. I found that in Helsinki, cycling really isn't that big, and also the cycling paths are pretty poorly marked compared to the UK. I mean, they have this one road where, I mean, first of all, basically no cyclist is on the road, unlike in the UK. Everybody in the UK cycles on the road. Whereas here, they don't. They cycle on the pavements. And there's this one part where you have on the left, you have walking, and on the right, you have a cycling path. And then you have an intersection. And on the other side of that intersection, the cycling path and the walking path have crossed sides, which I think is really dangerous because you just get cyclists like cutting across the pedestrians across the intersection. But do you generally have an okay appreciation of cyclists? Or
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way of getting around. Like I said, my perspective really drastically changes depending on whether or not I'm cycling at that moment.
So what's the worst thing do you think a cyclist does? Like, is there anything you've seen that you've thought, wow, you're a real piece of work?
God, like crossing red lights when it's like a bad time to be crossing. Like, I mean, crossing red lights at any point is like clearly a bad idea, but there are points when it's worse than others. Like, if you're on the road, I think you should obey the red lights.
Yeah, for sure. That's the biggest thing for me, I think. The fact that cyclists often choose whether they're a pedestrian or a vehicle at a moment's notice. They can just change if they want. I mean, there's even a Mr. Bean sketch, for goodness sake, of a cyclist coming up to a red light, wants to turn, so he like gets off his bike and pushes his bike along. Which I'm not totally against that. If you're getting off your bike and you're pushing your bike,
get off
yeah, fair enough. But the sketch is then that Mr. Bean turns the engine off his car, gets out the car, and pushes the car around the corner, which is a fair point because if he could do that, why can't the vehicle? Not that I'm advising anybody to do this.
Yeah. But that one's annoying. There are a lot of like cyclists in Cambridge can be a little bit nuts. And I am very, very pro cycling in general because I think it's really healthy and it's really good for the environment, etc., etc. I think the fact that you don't have to do any kind of training to cycle, like you just need to buy a bike, right? The reason we don't do that for cars.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, there are a lot of people who still can't ride a bike, which I think it's always a good thing to learn to do. Just because, especially when you go on holiday, some places like cycling around the place is actually a really enjoyable thing to do, and you can see a lot more than if you just walked. But how have you found your flatmates? How have you found housing? You find living life
chance
okay?
for me to diss James, Liam, and Chris.
This is the Tortcast roasting platform.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you know all of them, right? Because they're all material scientists. So
yeah.
Come visit when quarantine is over, and at some distant point in the future. Oh, it's been fine. We all live in. It's been good. It's been a good arrangement. We all live in like Eddington, which is this sort of bizarre near to Eddington, which is this bizarre bit of Cambridge where they built a new housing estate and then intended it to be like this utopian place for. I
used to frequent there quite often to like go to Sainsbury's.
Exactly. Yeah, but they intended it to be this place where like academics and families, and it would be wonderful, and it has all this creepy positive marketing, and then just not enough people moved in, so it's like half empty. It's very weird.
Yeah, generally finding housing in Cambridge, in fact finding housing in most UK cities is a really kind of difficult feat to do. How easy was it getting a place in Eddington? How large is the apartment, by the way?
It's a house. It's a sort of like full-on house.
Oh, it's like a whole house. Bloody hell.
Yeah, we're classy. No. You should ask Liam. I don't know. I didn't do it. I just like hopped on. Yeah, it is difficult. It's difficult in absolutely almost all of Cambridge. Because it's so far out. We're so far out of town, and those are your options. You can live in the center and have an impossible time and kind of live in a shit little apartment, or you can kind of go a significant way out of town.
Here in Finland, they basically don't do houses at all. Everybody has apartments. And I saw something on social media recently There's some famous, I don't know, famous Instagrammer, whatever, and they've moved into New York. Bear in mind, a New York apartment that's 2,000 square feet, 185 square meter apartment in central New York. And personally, I mean, first of all, the price on that must be insane. But then again, I suppose when you go that big in real estate, the price then drops off again because, you know, nobody wants it to be that big. Which is then what I was going to say. Would you want to live in a 180 square meter apartment?
No.
No, it's absolutely not. I mean, first of all, it's just the two of them living there, like her and her boyfriend. And I can just imagine, A, how cold it's going to be and how much you're going to have to pay for heating. B, like, what, do you two just sit on a sofa, just kind of in a huge empty place? And bear in mind, it's not like an apartment that's split up into many rooms. It's pretty much just kind of one central room, and then there's like a bathroom and a bedroom. So you've got like a huge space of kind of nothing. And I just kind of, I don't want to be a kind of a justice warrior, but I just kind of feel fundamentally that a place that big shouldn't be a thing in central New York. You know, 180 square meters, you can fit like 9 apartments there. Yeah. And I'm not saying I want everybody to live in a 20 square meter apartment because, you know, I do want people to be comfortable as well and have the choice. But you could at least split that into 3 apartments, right? 3 60 square meter apartments.
Yeah, I'm not sure about prescribing it, but I do think, like, it's a lot easier to live in smaller spaces than I think people think it is. Especially if you're in an area with green space, you can go out, this kind of thing. Like, I remember, you know, we went to Japan together, and I remember in a previous trip to Japan, I was staying with a host family, and they had 2 bedrooms and a living room, and there were 5 of them. You know, they weren't like particularly like hard done by. It was just kind of the amount of space they expected, and they made it work. You know, it was perfectly okay for them. I'm not saying everyone should have to live in that much space, but they didn't even really think much of it. You know, I think from a certain perspective it's nightmarish, but then from a certain perspective it can just be kind of what you're used to. Used to is having as much space as you have.
Yeah. I mean, we live in a 24 square meter apartment, which it's pretty small, but it could be smaller. You know, it could be better. And we are looking to move actually now into a slightly bigger place just because we want to have like a little sofa or something, because when you're sitting at home, the only places to sit are like at my desk or on the bed. And it's not nice to be sitting on the bed, like, you know, during the day, right? I think the bed should kind of be left to, you know, to go into sleep. If you're sitting on the bed all day, that can kind of make you feel even more lethargic. But yeah, no, you're right. People do quite well with the space that they're given. And I mean, in Cambridge as well, I think housing, and not only just housing, but actually places that are spacious, are quite hard to come by. And homelessness in Cambridge is through the roof. I think that for me, that was one of the most jarring experiences, actually. Because in Cambridge, like, half the city is owned by the university, and, you know, the university takes up a lot of space with all the different colleges, all the different dorms, all the different departments. And so it's certainly a very common sight to see outside a very lucrative and wealthy college. You would have like homeless people sitting outside at the gate, which personally I think is a really kind of injustice done in the city. But how shocked were you seeing kind of other college dorm rooms, and they're more like 30-40 square meters as opposed to our 15?
Oh yeah, I think we're both thinking at the same instant when we went to go visit Bruno, and just saw his room and like how much bigger and nicer it was. It wasn't even the size. It was the windows and the way and the balconies and just the
lighting,
way it seemed to be so spacious and have so much natural light. Like, I remember our rooms when my brother came to visit. He described it as a learning cage. It was like
that is a very apt description and kind of makes me uncomfortable.
This is a cage in which you learn. But like Bruno's, oh god, it looked amazing. It was so relaxing. The provisions can be like very unequal. That's part of being a student is you have shitty accommodation,
Yeah,
right?
but the thing is, it's not the case for a lot of people. I do think there is quite. I mean, I don't want to sound hard done by. I was happy with my accommodation, but there are a lot of places for students that their accommodation is just completely under par, and yet other people doing the same thing might end up with an amazing apartment. And well, do you think your apartment has much of an impact on your performance with your studies and your general well-being?
I think it does to a certain extent, yeah, definitely. Just because environment is important, and setup is important. The amount of light, these things are not insubstantial. They do affect, I think, your well-being quite a lot.
Yeah. I don't have any news articles for you today, sadly. I mean, there has been some stuff going on, but I don't want to get political or whatever. The last time, so for those, I mean, well, we lost the recording, or I lost the recording last time, but Matt and I spoke about, there was an article about 3 Russian doctors have mysteriously fallen out of windows, which I just found quite funny, but also quite sad, and we spoke about that. But the only news article I have actually for you today is today is a very sad day, and I want to know what you think about this. Today, Hitler's alligator died in Moscow.
I'm sorry.
Yep, I saw the headline and I was like, oh. Yeah, today Hitler's alligator died.
This alligator.
Which I feel is something I probably joked about as a kid, but never thought would be true. But yeah, he had an alligator, which for some reason the Soviets didn't. I don't know. Well, actually, no, I wouldn't expect them to kill the alligator. But I'd expect them to kill everything that's to do with Hitler, but. Yeah, no, Hitler has an alligator, and it was taken to Moscow, and it passed away in the zoo today at the age of, 84, and its name was Saturn, which I think is quite a nice name for an alligator.
Good name for an alligator.
Yeah, it floats.
Good job, Hitler. No, don't take that out of context.
I'm going to soundbite that and put that in other podcasts.
Please don't.
But,
I beg you.
But,
That's so cool, actually.
Yeah, Hitler has an alligator, or had an alligator. And on the news article, I just love that there was only one comment on this article. And the comment was, rumour has it, they found the alligator in a Nazi uniform harassing the Red Army as they approached. Yeah, so that was the news. That's my news this week for you.
It's a good story. That reminds me, I'm amazed it's still alive, but reptiles do live very long lives. I actually got told a fact about this by a biologist. I mean, this is a random fact that I'm not sure is true, but they told me that back in the reason mammals age and get older and have a process of aging, where really reptiles don't their bodies don't degrade in quite the same way as they get older, because back in the early dinosaur times, the mammal lifespan was so short and so kind of stamped out prematurely before the end of the natural lifespan that mammals developed a lot of kind of short-term gain, long-term degradation genes, so that would help you survive in the short run, and then you got killed by a dinosaur, but in the long term would be really bad for you. But back then they didn't live long enough, and now mammals do, and so we have an aging process, which I thought was a really cool fact. It may not be true, however, I do have it. I told this to my biochemist guy who sits next to me at work, and he said it was, and I quote, plausible, so maybe it is.
So what you're saying is, if I've heard this right, is that we need to transcend into reptilian overlords.
The lizard people had the right idea the whole time.
Yeah, so that's why Hitler kept an alligator. Yeah. He was in the middle of transcending his mammal capabilities. The only other article I saw was China. I mean, to be fair, I feel like because it's a Western headline, it's already kind of skewed toward Western attitudes, but it says China, quotation marks, open to international investigation into source of coronavirus, which, I'm not going to make a stance here, but I will make a joke in the sense that I like the idea of open being in quotation marks, because I just imagine this picture of Western scientists turning up to China to investigate the source of coronavirus, and all the Chinese officials being saying, yeah, but don't look over there, and read these documents that we'll give to you, and that's what happened. Do you think much is going to come about from the WHO and kind of Western research, the WHO, the World Health Organization, and kind of Western researchers investigating the source of coronavirus?
I mean, okay, I'm not an expert, but I think we have a pretty good idea of where it came from.
That's what I thought. I mean, I'm not sure why. I mean, I understand from a scientific perspective it's good to directly identify the source, but I don't know. I was still of the opinion that it was a bioweapon developed by
I mean, obviously, the reptilian overlords have been funding secret underground Chinese lab.
I see, yeah. And in the meantime, they were also developing the 5G towers to kind of fry the mammals, I think. I think that's how it works.
All 100% true and verifiable.
Yeah, you heard it here at the Tortcast.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the number one official source for legitimate news. But yeah, so no, that was the only news I had for you today, but there you go. Oh yeah, I was going to ask you, have you suffered much from writer's block since being on lockdown, or has it actually helped you flourish?
Writer's block isn't a thing. Writer's block just means you don't have a good idea. Like, if you don't have a good idea, you're going to write a thing. You need to wait to have a good idea. No, I've been writing a lot, but I had something I wanted to write, and I needed the time and sort of brain space to write it, and I kind of found it now. But by all means, coronavirus, continue.
Oof, I've edited that out.
Yeah, I don't mean it. It's all awful, but yeah. No, I've been alright with it, but I know a lot of people who write and who create art who generously calling my work art have found it a really difficult time and space to actually be creative and to do things.
So, on that note, I'm going to give you, or if you'd like to, well, I'm telling you, you have 20 seconds to kind of summarize your first book. Are you willing to do it?
Sure.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
So it's about a detective who is chasing a dude who blew up a place, but it's not political, y'all. It is a little bit political. At the end, the detective maybe catches the guy, maybe he doesn't, spoiler alert, and also some jokes, and that's about it. It's a sci-fi universe. That bit is pretty key.
Good.
It's sci-fi.
That's a pretty good summary. I mean, I like the bit where you said it's not political, but it is a little bit political. I feel that kind of summarizes every dystopian novel over the past 50 years.
I mean, it's political, but it's not too political. Like it's
just a little bit. And then you realise the entire theme is an underlying statement for capitalism.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little bit. Have you that's something I wanted to ask you, because Leo and I were speaking about it the other day. We like to watch a Russian TV show called Orel y Reshka, Heads or Tails. And it's basically a travel show where these two Russians go to places and they summarize it. And they went to Stockholm for one of the episodes in Sweden, and it really made us laugh because the weekend that they went, there was a Pride event going on. And this is a Russian TV show, right? And they included Pride, but they were saying they completely ignored, its kind of purpose, and was just saying like, oh, this is a happy European festival. Will everybody dress up in costumes and things like that? Everybody dressed up in costumes in bright colours, and which I think was kind of sad to actually see, but at the same time, I'm sure the presenters and the producers are probably aware of what it is and support it, as opposed to kind of censoring it themselves. But yeah, have you been to many Pride events? Because I do have to say, I haven't been to a Pride event. I've never kind of been around somewhere where one was going on, or at least been kind of free to do so. But have you been to many Pride
Yeah, I've
events?
been to a couple for sure. I went to Big London Pride a couple years back. The most interesting Pride I went to recently was actually Trans Pride, so it was Trans-Pacific Pride, and I went with some friends from uni, and it was really interesting because it was a lot smaller. It was a lot more like a protest. It really was a protest, and it was more of a political march, which I wasn't entirely expecting. I kind of came up expecting like a lawn party or something, because it's usually what Pride is. And then I got there and everyone was waving placards, and I was like, oh, okay, guess I'll go along with it. I've got booze. But no,
Was it actually advertised as a Pride event, or was it like explicit in the
Pride is.
fact it was a
This is the
protest?
thing. It's like Pride was a protest. That was how it started.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But now it's kind of like, yeah,
and at some point, it became more of a party. But Trans Pride is still very much it's a protest, and you can sort of see the origins of it, because like in like a small protest like that, in a small parade, it's quite claustrophobic. Like you get stared at a lot. You're walking through the middle of London, people are gawking at you. Everyone is filming you. You're aware of how like strange people look. People are dressed up. It's like you're attracting attention, and it kind of I don't know. I thought it was good because it kind of made me realize, like, what's called pride. You have to have quite a lot of pride and quite a lot of self confidence to march through the streets so openly like that. And thought it was really good and really interesting. Parties are also good. I'm also pro party.
I cared more about the booze and the partying than any political statement. But yeah, no, you're certainly right. I mean, I myself, being, a straight white male, I can't talk.
Great white male.
Yeah, I can't say anything about anything. But what I can say is, I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't have the fucking balls to make a statement about anything myself. But yeah, were you? I mean, would you rather it was a protest in that sense, or would you have preferred it if it just stayed kind of light-hearted and
Um,
party friendly?
I don't know. I think there's a sort of there's place for both. Um, He's a good. I don't know. I think with Trans Pride, you're kind of you're up against a lot more vocal position. I mean, we had counter protesters, which you wouldn't normally get at quite aggressive, but they were there. Wouldn't normally get at like Pride. It would be kind of insane, right?
Yeah, there still is at the moment a lot more support for just kind of being gay than there is to be trans. That's, yeah, for sure. I suppose one thing is that if you weren't going to make a statement there, then where would you, you know? I think having events like that is kind of. I think you'd almost be silly not to use that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a lot of the rationale. Like it was through central London. It was through kind of the bits where tourists go, the bits where people go from like all over the country to kind of visit the central bits of London, bits where people come from other countries. It's a good place to make a statement if you wanted to. It was exciting. I was glad I went. It was not what I expected. I did not do my research. I was there drinking my tinned cocktails, like cool.
I can picture that. Just a kind of not like aggressive, whatever. A protest where people's being very vocal and very forward, and then there's just kind of you in the corner with your drinks, like great party, guys.
Yeah. No. I mean, I got into it. I got into the shouting. I didn't initially anticipate it.
And well, just to be straightforward, because I'm really happy with how things have turned out for you. How do you feel now compared to 5 years ago when you started this transition journey?
Yeah, I mean, a lot better. Definitely. Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I think it dominates your life completely up until the point it doesn't at all. That's not to say, like, it kind of becomes, I think, as you adjust, less and less of in your life. That's good. That's where you want it to be, right? Well, that's not where everyone wants it to be, and I'm not going to say. I make absolutely no statements for all trans people.
Yeah, yeah,
Please don't kill me. I'm not on Twitter, so no one can kill me on Twitter. But for me personally, yeah, it's good because it's just a thing I think about a lot less, and that's where I want it to be.
yeah. I mean, this is actually, I'll be honest, this is why. I mean, I can bring it up with you because we're good friends, right? But this is also why I'm hesitant to bring it up, because other than me bringing it up, this wouldn't really be on your mind at all in your life right now, right?
Not much, no.
No, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because this is a platform that I would like to use, and this is something that is absolutely worth using it for. You know, I mean, I've almost reached 50 listeners, so thank you to anybody who's listening. But I do still know that amongst those listeners, there are people who have never met somebody who's transgender, or have no idea or no experience with anybody who's transgender. And so I don't know, to me, I think it was important to at least bring it up, just so people are aware. Basically, point that I'm saying is, there is nobody you can just straight up stereotype as one viewpoint. So that's just kind of one serious bit that I wanted to have here at the end of the episode. But anyway, yeah, thank you very much for coming on to the show for the second time. I should be getting our good friend Gonzalo on soon. He's expressed an interest. He said he wanted to hear you listen on the episode first. So just a quick explanation. Gonzalo is our friend also at university, who is Portuguese and lived in Romania, and he's very intelligent and a nice guy, so we'll have a lot to talk about there. But yeah, I suppose, is there anything else that you would like to say?
I think you've undersold Gonzalo, the nicest person ever to have existed. But yeah, no, it's been great fun. For having me on the second time.
Yeah, I go on about Gonzalo too much in my private time. Leader's starting to think that I have a crush on him. And, well, joke's on her. I've had the crush on him for a long time. Yeah, there's one more thing I wanted to ask, actually. You went back to university recently, invited back to speak to the undergraduates. I was invited as well, of course, as you know, but living in another country is difficult. I did actually ask Bob and Paul, our director of studies, to say, if you can pay for accommodation, a flight and a taxi, then sure, I'll go. And they were like, yeah, we can't do that. I was like, yeah, fair enough. But what wise words of wisdom did you pass on to the undergraduates?
I told them to quit their degrees. No, I didn't. I just walked them through. I told them I went into my degree, wanting to figure out the secrets of the universe and like solve physics and understand, the words of God. And then I realized, well, that was really hard. And gave up, and that's fine. Like, not everyone's cut out to do quantum electrodynamics without crying. So I said that, and said I gave up and went into technical consultancy, which I did. And then Gonzalo came off after me and was like, yes, I did the quantum electrodynamics without crying. Except sometimes I cry, but that's okay, because I know I am growing into a wonderful flower. This kind of like beautiful inspirational speech, and then like all the undergrads were in tears, and they weren't, but could see how moved they were. It was good fun, actually. I saw Bob. Actually, gave Bob a hug.
Bob is our idol. For listeners who don't know, he's just a man who taught us basically everything we know. But yeah, no, in contrast, Matt and Gonzalo, who should hopefully be on next week, Gonzalo is like an angel, and Matt here is like, well, I mean, you're kind of the devil, I suppose, compared to Gonzalo. I mean, I wouldn't straight up say you are the devil, but compared to Gonzalo, I mean, everyone's the devil.
Everyone's the devil, exactly. Thanks for not straight up calling me the devil. Take that as a compliment.